Leonard in Sunol, California. Am I saying that right, Leonard?
San Ramon.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Good. Well, I guess it's afternoon where you are. It's morning where I am.
Yep.
Mr. Hartman, I love your show, and I've been a very big fan for very years. But I would like to take you to task for something that I've heard you say, and that is, I am a Black American, proud, and I'm very informed. And I've heard you say over and over that if Sanders does not win, we need to fall in behind Clinton. And I ask you, and I ask all of my white brothers and sisters to consider this. You're asking me, as an informed Black American, just to fall in behind a woman who stood against King with Goldwater, who used then, and then 30 years later, used in the 90s, used segregationist language. The word heel was segregationist language. And then in 2008, blew a clear dog whistle comparing Obama to Jesse Jackson, who's somebody who the segregationists are so...
Yeah, it was her husband who did that, actually, Leonard. But yeah, I get your point.
Yeah. Okay, but again, Mr. Hartman, to say that her husband, okay, that's fine, but what about the other two? That, sir, is a pattern, and what you're asking me to do, and you're asking other informed Black Americans to do, sir, is to ignore these things for the good of the country. And I would argue, sir, that that is a very much a white privileged position, as these things did not affect Black Americans, or white Americans, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And as far as, and I know the question becomes, well, how does she have so much Black support? Well, sir, if all I can afford is MSNBC and CNN, guess what? I'm probably going to be a Hillary supporter. I'm not even going to know who Bernie is.
Right.
So, sir, I ask you kindly, as a white American, to please explain to me, why is it seemingly okay with white America to put a racist, which is by definition someone who uses race to their advantage, which going for Goldwater against segregation, using segregationist language in 3 different decades, sir. That is a pattern. So please help me, sir. Why should I, again, support that person as the head of my only viable? It's like you're saying, vote for my racist over the racist the Republican put forward. Either way it goes, I got to vote for a racist. That's what you're saying and then I'm dumb for that. I'm crazy for wanting to destroy or disrupt that, which is what I'm taking you to task for saying that. And I'm wondering, are you considering that when you're saying that people are you're just crazy and that's not a smart thing to do? How do you consider that, sir? What you're asking me to do?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Actually, and let's have that conversation, Leonard, right now. Yeah. First of all, Hillary Clinton's entire career and her, and all the things that she's done, from working with Marian Wright Edelman in the beginning, and I realize Marian Wright Edelman's husband, resigned from the Clinton administration when the crime bill was passed. Or actually, I think it was when the welfare legislation, Lyndon Johnson's welfare was gutted, whichever it was, in protest. But still, Hillary has a long history of supporting the Black community and supporting, positive racial things in the United States. Your points are all well taken, but net. First of all, you're not going to find, Leonard. You're going to find very few white people who really understand white privilege and who have not, at various times in their lives, said things that are racially insensitive, out of just not even understanding their own white privilege. And I think that, frankly, when she was talking about bringing people to heel and all that, there clearly was a racial undertone to that. Did she realize that or not? Certainly, I think in retrospect now she does. And,
yes, sir. But she was with Goldwater, sir.
No,
that's the same language.
Yeah, yes and no. Barry Goldwater did not run as a segregationist. Barry Goldwater actually, opposed segregation. What he opposed was the federal government. This was a small, well, not small actually, but this was his whole states' rights thing, was that the decision should be made at a state level, not a federal level. I disagree with that. I have no idea what Hillary thought at the time, but I can tell you, when I was 13, I was into Barry Goldwater. By the time I was 16, I was out in the streets getting, pepper gassed for protesting the war, and I was totally opposed to Barry Goldwater. But having been there, what captured the imagination of people in 1964, particularly young white people, I think, with regard to Barry Goldwater, was that he was running an idealistic campaign. It was, in many ways. But I don't want to be defending Barry Goldwater either, frankly. My point, the 2 points that I would make, Leonard, is number one,
yes, sir.
I don't think that Hillary Clinton is explicitly, overtly a racist, or that she is going to be, as president, a person who would pursue policies that are going to be destructive to the African American community. If anything, the contrary, number one. And number two, if you don't vote for a Democrat, whether it's Bernie or Hillary, who are you going to vote for?
Exactly, sir. But that's the point. If it's what you're asking me to do is to, because I heard your explanation, sir, and it's a very, very, very valid point, which is why I love you as a host, sir. But you are ignoring that there is a pattern. And when you start saying that it is
I'm acknowledging
patronizing, okay, but it is a bit patronizing to say, well, she's done all this and that for the black community. At the end of the day, sir, being an informed black American also understands that we can do one thing, and if you look at, and here's where it is. If you look at that, where Sanders allowed Black Lives Matter to speak on two different occasions, Hillary Clinton actually threw them out. But if you follow the whole tape, I think that encapsulates who Hillary Clinton is. Because once they kicked her out, if you listen carefully to that end of that tape, and I would love for you to play it on the air, sir, she says, Hillary Clinton herself, now looking at this pattern, in 2016, she says, now let's get to the real issues.
Yeah, no, I saw it.
Black issues were not real issues.
I know what you're talking about.
One of her supporters said, yes.
I saw it, but again,
you're asking me.
I don't, Leonard. We live in a country that has a two-party system. I don't think it's the best system. I would much rather have a parliamentary system where you have proportional representation and you can have 5 different political parties. But that really wasn't invented until 1860, when John Stuart Mill published his book on liberty and proposed proportional representation. At that time, there were only 7 democracies in the world. Now, virtually every democracy in the world since 1860 has adopted his model, except for us and New Zealand and Australia and a couple of other countries. And in New Zealand and Australia, they fixed it with instant runoff voting. But the reality is that we live in a two-party state. And if you're not voting for a Democrat who is at least reasonable on race issues, and Hillary Clinton will have that conversation, and is I would say she's even an advocate. She may not be aware of her own white privilege or whatever. I don't know, for some of these things that have come out of her mouth. But and probably you'll find some of those things coming out of Bernie's mouth over the years. Although maybe not. I don't know. I just saw that picture. Yeah. There's a new picture of him out when he was arrested in 1962 or 3, literally chained at the ankle to a black woman. And that was his initiation, right? So maybe he's been more sensitive on this. But look at the Republicans. Do you really think that Paul Ryan or Ted Cruz or Donald Trump or John Kasich even? I mean, John Kasich is aggressively trying to destroy communities of color and people in the bottom 50%, both black and white, in Ohio, and has done a marvelous job at it, by the way.
I'll be glad to answer that, sir.
Okay,
and I'll answer that this way, sir. Understanding being a former black American means I also understand who Danilo Blandone was. I also understand that Mr. Clinton had to have known who he was when he did the crime bill. And so to look at the destruction that has been brought forth by the Clinton family, I understand that's not Hillary, but she hasn't necessarily distanced herself from these things. And to see the destruction that they have done to black America, by knowing
that crime bill was supported by the Congressional Black Caucus.
I understand that. Sir.
So are you gonna go after John Conyers for that?
I will say this, sir. A black politician, sir, is still a politician. An establishment politician, sir, is still a politician. I go back to good times, and there was a politician there named Alderman Fred C. Davis. And you know what? At the end of the day, he was just a politician. He had black skin, but he protected the politician. I was very disappointed in John Lewis when he talked about who he knew in the 60s and he didn't know, hinting that Hillary Clinton was there. No, sir, Hillary Clinton was standing opposite you.
Yeah.
And so, sir, all I'm asking you to do, sir, is to consider when you start saying people are foolish, And to black Americans, whether it's Republican racism or even to the point of, like you just talked about, scanning poor people, well, hello, Devereen Wasserman Schultz is perfectly for all on board, and she's the Clinton person, and she's all on board for this whole thing.
Well, that's I would never recommend
one or the other.
Leonard, forgive my interrupting, but we're going to hit a break in about 30 seconds, and I just wanted to. I would never ever recommend anybody vote for Deputy Wasserman Schultz.
We agree.
So, I just have to say that, with regard to Hillary Clinton, I understand your critique. I just don't know what your alternative is.
That's exactly. Is just wake up my white brothers and sisters. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that we both agree we all need to be doing, and we need to be doing aggressively. Leonard, thank you for your very thoughtful analysis of the situation and the conversation. It's a conversation I think we should have had a long time ago. Thank you, Leonard. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.